I think I'm a white man.
You think?
Yeah.
No, do you believe?
I believe I am a white man.
Don't you know that belief is a doubt? Now, do you believe in your mother and father?
No, I know my mother and father.
Yeah. So, but you might believe in Jesus.
I might believe in Jesus.
Because you don't know Jesus.
I've never met
Now
him.
you can only believe in what you don't know.
When was the last time you took a deep breath? Because God knows I need to. See what I did there? This video is going to be a doozy. No matter what I say or do, there will be people that disagree with me. There will be people that think I'm an idiot, and there will be people that get offended. But regardless, I would like the record to show that this video was made in an effort to encourage open-mindedness and insightful discussion, and to inspire people to maybe not give as much of a shit about what others say or do. And finally, I would like to state, I'm right, you're wrong, everything I say in this video is factual, and your opinion is a big pile of dog shit. Now, in order to begin unpacking this incredibly loaded topic, I think it's best to start with something small, to discuss something straightforward. So, let's define the word God. The big boy upstairs, who is it? What is it? In the majority of religions, God is portrayed as a singular, divine, transcendent being, usually interpreted as a man. These versions of God are personal, meaning they're self-aware and have their own desires. They pull the strings in the physical world. They are all-seeing, all-knowing, all-loving, and for some reason are significantly involved in human affairs. I mean, you can see why, we're all super-duper interesting. Now, I'd say that's a pretty standard definition of God. One that we're all aware of. However, for this video I want to go deeper than that, to read between the lines of what we're told and have a more nuanced discussion. I think it's funny that humans are inclined to believe that the creator of all things as we know them would concern himself with us so deeply, that they'd care about what we do on Sundays and what food we consume or what facial hair we grow. But that's human nature, it's always about us. It has to be. And to be honest, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Hear me out. Albert Einstein, a man I'm sure we're all very familiar with, and a man that will probably be mentioned more than once in this video, has quite an interesting perspective on God and faith. Now, you might assume that, Albert, he was a scientific guy. Of course he's going to be a skeptic. However, you may be surprised to find out that he did actually believe in God to a certain extent. Within his famous God letter, he wrote, "The word God for me is nothing but the expression and product of human weakness." Now, it's easy to hear this and immediately think that he's deeming all people of religion to be weak. But this is not the case. Einstein justifiably believed that the concept of a personal God arose from a need for comfort, explanation, or control in life's inevitable uncertainties, and was a projection of natural human desires and limitations. When we don't have the answers, when we don't have something to blame, or when we need something to give us hope, the concept of God provides this for us. Think about a time in your life when things haven't exactly been going to plan. Regardless of whether you're religious, we've all found ourselves at one point or another talking out loud, pleading with life, whether we think someone's listening or not. I do believe in this concept and think that the depiction of God has been shaped in a way that's more digestible for the general population. Why is God always a human male? If he created the entire universe, why is he so concerned with what's happening on Earth? Within religion, human beings were said to have been intentionally created by God to fulfill a predetermined role in his world, when really it appears to me that maybe both unconsciously and unintentionally it's the other way round. The idea of God in a lot of ways is a tool for humans, and a very powerful one at that. It can be used for discipline, productivity, hope and love, as well as power, blame, excuse and profit. That being said, I am in no way dismissing the possible existence of a God, in a sense, or a version of God, and I do take every definition of God seriously in a capacity. But I do believe in essence that the conventional, personal, omnipotent perception of God is a tool that people unintentionally use to serve themselves, and not the other way around.
All you got to do is look over your shoulder and look where God has brought you from.
Up until around the age of 18, I would have described myself as a pretty strict atheist, which is the absolute denial of the existence of God or a higher power. I wasn't brought up around any kind of faith, and I came to my own conclusion that God wasn't real. I used to say things like, it's stupid to be religious, religion is a business, people actually believe that Jesus rose from the dead, etc. These are what are called straw man arguments, which is when you belittle or misinterpret someone's beliefs in order to make them an easier target in a debate. It's like telling a football fan that they watch 11 grown men kick a ball around for 90 minutes. It's not really valid, as a football fan would never describe their beloved sport with such dismissal of everything that makes it great. Same way a Christian would never describe their religion as the sole belief that Jesus rose from the dead, because there's simply so much more to it. It's an ignorant technique used to make people sound stupid. It doesn't actually encourage a deep, intelligent discussion where both parties are trying to learn from each other and come to some kind of understanding. Same way that referring to religion as a business is ignoring all of the life-changing potential that could come with faith. And saying that you have to be stupid to be religious is further shutting the door and ignoring the abundant wisdom and peace that many people have found and experienced for themselves. That being said, I'm not trying to say that everyone should just force themselves to believe something they don't, but I am asking you to be open to it. Ignore the stigmas around religion and form your own opinion. I find this to be a big issue with religious and even political discussions. No one's actually willing to hear the other person out and listen to what they have to say. Instead, everyone's simply trying to humiliate each other for whatever reason. It's completely ignorant and counterproductive. We need to drop the straw man arguments and instead build Iron Man arguments, which is where both parties aim to construct the strongest and most credible version of their opponent's argument, maximizing its resistance to criticism. That way, a perceptive, intuitive debate is encouraged. This is how people actually learn and grow and get the most from each other, possibly even coming to a solution or a mutual understanding, as opposed to just trying to make the other person look silly, where nothing is achieved and no one learns anything.
All you gotta do is look back. Tell somebody to look over your shoulder.
It's funny, a lot of people use science as a means to try and disprove the existence of God. But it was actually science, A-level physics specifically, where I initially began to consider a higher power. Dark matter, dark energy, and quantum physics. 3 things you may or may not have heard of. Dark matter and dark energy are components of the universe that scientists cannot directly observe. In fact, the only reason we know they exist is because they have to. If they didn't, we'd all be dead. Let me explain. Firstly, when astronomers observe how galaxies rotate, the stars on the outer edges are moving much faster than they should be. If only the visible matter within those galaxies, such as stars, gas, and dust, were exerting gravitational pull. According to Newtonian physics, those stars should be flung into space. But they're not. Therefore, scientists came to the conclusion that there must be an invisible mass exerting extra gravitational pull in order to hold these galaxies together. This unseen mass is what we call dark matter. Secondly, in the late 1990s, scientists discovered that the universe's expansion is actually accelerating, which is shocking. The gravitational pull from all of the mass in the universe should be slowing the expansion, even possibly pulling it back in on itself. This is what we call the Big Crunch. But neither of these things are happening. Therefore, there must be a repulsive force counteracting this gravity on a cosmic scale, causing space to stretch faster over time. This is what we call dark energy. Finally, quantum physics. This is impossible to explain in a few sentences, but I'm going to try my best. The properties of a particle can basically teleport. This is what we call quantum tunneling. The particle itself doesn't teleport, but its quantum state can appear to move from one particle to another once we make the effort to measure it. So it can be inferred that a particle's quantum state is not just living in the 3 dimensions that we see. It's part of a deeper, more complex quantum space. And what looks like a spooky teleportation might just be a normal motion in a higher dimension. A dimension where quantum information travels freely, even if we can't observe it. Now, these 3 examples made a big impression on me. This paired with various psychedelic experiences, filled with unexplainable occurrences, humbled me in a sense and pulled me away from my atheist beliefs. I began to think that there must be something out there, something unexplainable beyond this plane of reality. This new freedom of thought made me curious and willing to listen and learn about other people's faith. I started asking religious friends questions and wanted to learn about their experiences. It was like I was a blank sheet of paper again. I didn't necessarily believe in God, but I did know that there were a lot of things beyond our capacity for understanding in this universe. I mean, we cannot know everything. We're not supposed to. Our brains physically couldn't handle it. There are things at play behind the scenes, strings being pulled that we can't even see. And actually, I think it's naive and almost a bit arrogant to believe that there's nothing beyond our comprehension that's influencing our existence and reality to a certain extent. But whether it's a conscious being like a god, a simulation, or even just a form of energy is impossible to say.
Look where you come from. Look where you come through.
I've heard the term agnostic be defined in a few different ways. Originally, I thought it described a person who was somewhat faithful, or does believe that there is a higher power but just doesn't know how to classify it. And when others would ask me what my beliefs were, agnosticism is what I would identify with. However, in preparation for this video, after a little bit of research, I've discovered that I should have paid more attention in religious studies, and that apparently I'm a liar who knows nothing. The best definition I could find for an agnostic is actually a person who has come to the realization that they don't know shit, who believes that nothing is known or can be known about the existence or nature of God. They haven't decided either way, nor do they want to. You could go as far as to say they just be chilling for real. Basically, they're just spiritual fence-sitters. Now, scientifically, this logic makes sense. Looking at the facts, there's no physical evidence to deny the existence of God, nor is there evidence to confirm it. But scientifically, as a grown man, you will never catch me sitting on the fence, as sensible as that may be. So I did some digging and managed to find a more appropriate description for my beliefs. That being Ietsism, or as the Dutch pronounce it,
Ietsism.
I am an Ietsist, I suppose you could say. And actually, whether you are Christian, Muslim, etc., you might be one too. Let me explain. Ietsism is a Dutch term that translates to Something-ism. It's spiritualism without religion, or an unspecified belief in an unknown transcendent reality. You believe in a creator of sorts, higher than this physical world, but this belief cannot be classified or boxed into a specific religion or faith. So basically still just a spiritual fence-sitter, but with slightly more nuance. Now, as I say, you can be Ietsist whether you're already tied to a religion or not. Ietsists might call themselves Christian, or followers of another religion based on cultural identification, but they might not necessarily believe in all of the teachings or practices that come with that. You might be a Christian that doesn't actually believe that you're going to go to heaven or hell based on your actions in your life. And referring to an example from earlier, you may not believe that Jesus was crucified or that he was resurrected, and this might make you more of an Ietsist Christian. This concept absolutely resonates with me, as it does acknowledge the existence of an entity beyond my comprehension, but it doesn't shove you into a box, making it easier for you to keep an open mind and learn from and relate to other people's various beliefs, which is something I think should be more acceptable within religion. There's a lot of room for wisdom in Something-ism, with the potential to believe and practice various ideas, without that leading to divisiveness or conflict. Whether you're of strict religion or not, I do believe it to be beneficial for everyone to adopt this mindset. It helps you remain a curious student as opposed to being a stubborn teacher, and this will only lead to more unique experiences, insightful social interactions, and overall more peace.
I've come through the storms and rain. Look where I come from. I was down, but now I'm up.
With all that being said, I still can't say I've practiced traditional religion. However, I would like to describe my own experiences with faith, specifically the law of attraction. About 6 months ago, I fully immersed myself into the law of attraction. A simple explanation for those who don't know what that is the concept that you can draw your desired reality closer to you by acting as if you already live it. You may force your current self to feel the emotions of your future self living that life. You may write as if you've already achieved everything you want to achieve. And you may talk as if you're already something that you're trying to be. Scripting, gratitude, affirmations, meditations, visualizations. I did them all. First thing in the morning, I would write down 5 things I'm grateful for. I read out my list of affirmations, and then I would meditate, visualizing my desired life. Once a month, on every full moon, I would write in this journal. I would write a list of things I wanted to achieve within that month, from the perspective of the version of myself that I already had. For example, I would write, I have 100 subscribers on YouTube, even though I didn't. Then I would let these desires go and forget about them until the next month rolled around, when I would then tick off all of the things that happened and cross off all of the things that didn't. I even slept with Labradorite under my bed, as it's said to have traits of financial success and abundance. And also it's just fucking sick, I mean, look at that. Now of course this isn't common religious practice. I wasn't praying, I wasn't speaking to God, there was no community involved. However, it is undeniable that this is a variation of faith. I was putting my faith into a transcendent power above myself, and at times I was convinced it was working. I specifically remember writing that I wanted 100 subscribers on YouTube, and that I wanted more freelance jobs. This was during a time when my growth on YouTube was pretty slow, and I hadn't had a freelance job for months. That month, I hit 200 subscribers on YouTube, and there was a day when I had 4 people messaging me about design work. Only one of those jobs actually went through, but it did have me scratching my head thinking, this is actually working. Now, probably due to a slight lack of discipline and a slight change in perspective, I stopped practicing the law of attraction about 2 months ago. Here are my observations after stopping. Referring back to what I said about God being a tool for us, as opposed to the other way round. In hindsight, I think I unintentionally used the law of attraction as a tool for growth and productivity, as opposed to the law of attraction actually providing me with such things. You know what I mean? I don't think the law of attraction is real. I don't think you can esoterically draw a certain reality closer to you in a spiritual sense. But I do believe that the belief you can will lead you to. The more I visualized, the more I affirmed, the more I scripted, the more clarity I had about what I wanted, and the more infatuated I became with that version of reality. In turn, I took more steps towards it. I started working harder, improving my skills, producing higher quality work, which in turn led to better results, which only reinforced my belief that the law of attraction was real. It was like a big feedback loop. After stopping, I kept improving my skills and investing in myself, and uploaded my highest performing video to this day. And I guess that proved that the two weren't directly correlated. Me stopping didn't affect my results for the worst. That being said, I don't think it's stupid to believe in the law of attraction, same way it's not stupid to believe in God, because it can lead to very positive things if you let it. I suppose it's just about finding what helps you and what drives you and what gives you purpose.
Look where I come from, by the grace of God, by the goodness of God.
Now, coming at it from an outsider's perspective, I'd like to talk about what I perceive to be the various ups and downs of being religious. Of course, these are not set in stone, it's not compulsory for every person of faith to experience these. It really depends on who you are and how you think. I believe the primary benefits of religion to be structure and guidance. I mean, there's numerous stories of people who have had nothing, thrown themselves into religion, and come out with a completely different life. It's remarkable, and it's not a coincidence. As we discussed from my personal experience, the further I fell into the law of attraction, the more inspired I was to remain productive and disciplined. There's a lot of value in not believing that you're the sole driver in your journey, and that there is something higher looking out for you. It keeps you humble, it keeps you hopeful, and it takes a level of pressure off of your shoulders. However, some things that the law of attraction failed to offer was ethical and moral guidance and a sense of community and belonging. I didn't feel as though I needed these, I don't feel like I missed out on that, but they can be life-changing for someone who hasn't been privileged with them. Unfortunately, sometimes this life-changing potential isn't realised. I've known people to be incredibly stubborn and close-minded due to what they've been taught, which can often lead to lack of accountability and suppression of doubts, questions, and individuality. Sometimes leading people down a life that they don't actually want, which is very sad, of course. This can also lead to an us versus them mentality, which is never necessary and only leads to conflict. Additionally, it's no secret that authority figures in religion have been known to abuse their power to manipulate and profit. These just seem to be the natural consequences of religion. Hence why so many people come to the conclusion that we're better off without it. But as I say, it depends on what mindset you have and what your circumstances are. Open-mindedness is the key to everything. It can unlock doors that you didn't see before and lead you down paths that you didn't even know were there.
I don't want you to allow people to tell you that you are useless.
I guess it's only right to end this video stating exactly what I believe in based on my knowledge and past experiences. Back to Einstein. Albert Einstein, who grew up Jewish, quickly dismissed the stories told in Judaism and even Christian scripture soon after he was exposed to science. Despite this, he didn't actually entirely dismiss the validity of all religion and faith, and continued to study various ideologies and philosophies. With this open-mindedness, he read widely, particularly the works of Baruch Spinoza, a Dutchman from the 1600s that was kicked out of his Jewish community due to his differing beliefs. He refused to follow the rigid dogmas of his day, arguing instead that everyone should take their own paths on deciding on what to believe. He believed that the majority of religion was motivated more by fear than virtue, saying that you have been guided not so much by the love of God as by the fear of hell. He challenged the authority of the Bible, with one of his books actually being placed on the Catholic Church's list of banned books, as it was forged by the devil. He quickly became a source of inspiration for other challengers, and was later endorsed by Mr. E=mc² himself, Einstein. Spinoza argued against a personal God, instead believing that the divine being was not some distant force, but all around us. Nothing in nature is separate from him. Not people, not animals, not even inanimate objects. He is within everything, providing a connection between everything physical. Not separate from the universe, but instead the universe itself, providing order and beauty. Spinoza's God is not concerned with human actions or emotions. He is not a being of love or wrath, but rather a force of nature. This could be referred to as modern-day pantheism, referring to God as a physical manifestation of the universe. Many criticize this concept, accusing him of using counterfeit arguments to discreetly teach atheism, and saying that he was casting off all religion by saying that God was identical to nature. However, I think these criticisms are unfair. It is true that in his perception, God is intimately bound up with nature, but just because God is not separate from the world, that does not mean he is identical to it, because there is a relationship of dependence that only travels one way. We are dependent on Spinoza's God, but Spinoza's God is not dependent on us. For Spinoza, everything we are, and the continued existence of all things, is a manifestation of God's power. I think this strongly correlates with the theory that we are the universe experiencing itself. That the universe in its entirety is a singular connected entity, and we are each a part of that entity, experiencing it through different perspectives. Anyone open to the idea of religion but isn't comfortable with orthodox teachings should definitely read Spinoza. So yeah, I know it sounds cliche, but my honest belief is that everything in this world is one. Everything is connected in one way or another, and what you give out, you end up getting back at some point. I've found that this mindset has provided a lot of benefits for me. I make sure to consider my words and actions, because in a sense I feel as though they aren't just directed at external things, but myself as well. I'm happier for others' success, I feel less hostility towards people, I'm even more considerate towards inanimate objects. Basically, the more hate that you put out, the more hate that's going to find its way back to you. That's what I've found to be true.
Because I want you to know God told me to tell you this day, you are useful.
In summary, I believe that faith can be a positive aspect of anyone's life. Why not? It doesn't mean you have to believe in an afterlife, it doesn't mean you have to pray, it doesn't mean you have to believe in God, but existence itself is far more complex than we could ever dream. It's like the ocean. We've only explored 5% of it. The other 95% is more or less unknown and left up to one's imagination. And to be absolutely 100% decided on a religion or faith, or lack thereof, is possibly closing the door to numerous lessons and experiences, as well as finding a mindset or a way of life that's more suited to you, one that brings you more peace and clarity. Don't let your stubbornness lead you to more conflict and division. Something-ism is a mindset that I believe everyone should introduce into their lives to some extent, and I don't necessarily mean with just religion. Whatever the discussion, the ability to remain open-minded and listen to your fellow human, no matter how much you may think you disagree with them, no matter how much you initially think they're wrong, and having the ability to accept and consider their opinion will only lead to more positive discussions. Forget the straw man arguments, forget the eye rolling, forget the stereotypes. Listen to what people have to say. Ponder it, don't just write it off. The more accepting we can be of each other, the closer we become. Keep experiencing, keep learning. You will never know everything, and the moment that you believe you do, is the moment you fuck yourself. Overall, I would give religion a "the measure of intelligence is the ability to change." Albert Einstein out of 10. If you made it to the end of this video and you enjoyed, then please make sure to leave a like. It goes so far. And if you want to see more, I upload every now and again, so make sure to subscribe as well. Also, let me know what your opinions are on religion, God, and faith in the comments down below. I'm always interested in the discussion. I'll leave a link to my shop and my Instagram in the description, and yeah, that's it.
You are bad.